Well, let's start with who you are. Let's take it all the way back to Plymouth, Massachusetts.
We can do that.
And the Mayflower.
Well, yeah, it's kind of fun. Bo is Robert Brewster Loudon III, named after William Brewster from the Mayflower. So the Loudons tied in with the Brewsters going back, and that's been a really fun heritage to see. What a brave Christian soul to come for a new thing and land and launch this country to be a godly nation. So it's great. Yeah, we're pretty proud of that heritage.
Yeah, it's your game.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So let's talk about how you came up, what got you into the vocation which we'll be talking about, and bring us up to current day. So background on you.
And it's a little uncomfortable when you call it vocation. I mean, I guess in a way it is, politics.
Yeah.
I always looked at it as a service of, it's what you volunteered to do. You help help elect people. You need to be civically engaged because you were handed a birthright that's awesome, and you should continue to do that. I was just raised in a household where we got involved in politics campaign, so I went from being like the club president to the Young Republicans and the National Committee man, and just always volunteering. And then and I had a full-time job, but then politics was, it was a call, and you need to go do this. And so all right, please not me. But
so it wasn't a pursuit, just something that just came up and you ended up doing it.
Yeah, I'm one of those weird politicians. Like, I pray not to run. God don't make me run. Find somebody else. Take him. Hopefully not you, because you're my family. I wouldn't wish it on you either. But yeah, so it was, we just, it was 6 months of saying no, and I had just become a Christian. And Donna Minnie's begging forgiveness, and then boom, there's the call, you need to run for my seat. Like, no, I'll find somebody else. So yeah, I came in kicking and screaming, and now I'm trying to kick and scream my way out of it. I don't do it anymore.
It doesn't sound like that's working too well.
No.
We're going to get to you, Bo. I just want to talk about you went to university, and then you ended up in Germany for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We have some German friends here tonight, so.
Yeah, I know, all the way from Bavaria. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, we had a lot of exchange students when I was a kid. So we had kids from all over the world, and it started when I was in elementary school, and they were hanging out with my older brothers who were in high school, and so they didn't pay a lot of attention to me. But a couple did. There were a couple Germans that were especially nice. So I thought, man, those Germans are the nicest people in the world, which always makes even Germans chuckle, because it's not exactly a reputation. So I studied German. I turned 16 over there, and had an aptitude for the language, did for college. Chopped on a Berlin Wall on my honeymoon, so, which is very romantic. I recommend it. They slam concrete with a chisel.
Yeah,
special.
So tell us about leading your better half.
Yeah, so I met Dr. Jean in college. She should have run the other way, but I tracked her down at the blood drive, and but I saw her walk in, and I had to go right there and strike up a conversation. And she was minding her own business, being a psych major, and going to do good in her world, and I dragged her into the political world, and here we are. Yeah, she's 5 wonderful kids later, and beautiful, amazing woman. And so it was a good move.
So, Bo, what's it like growing up in a family of politicians and personalities?
Well, me personally, they always try to keep me out of it, but I was so interested with it since I was at a young age. And it's kind of hard to, say, stay out of it when you're both very involved in this thing. So
Don't do what I do.
Don't do what I do. So, yeah, I've always been very interested in politics since a young age, and eventually I decided, let's start a social media and try and pursue it a little bit. Very much admired both my mom and my dad's career. I kind of wanted to see if I could do both. Could I start on social media, go on TV, do that type of thing, and then take that eventually and turn it into real life for office. So that was kind of how I did it, and I couldn't be happier. I'm in a great position for life. I've been very set up, and 2 phenomenal parents.
That's great. Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff going on. Tell us a little bit about the journey.
The journey's been it's been a process, and at first it started as just something I wanted to do for myself, and I was very interested, like I said, in politics, but kind of turned into something when I realized this country has some potential last moments. We had all the stuff going on like January 6th and things like that, and we had now Joe Biden in office, and I was thinking we have to take this country back, and if we don't, and if I even feel like I in some way played a part in that, I will be very disappointed in myself. So I just started working and talking to my friends and talking to people I work with on social media and things like that, and seeing how can we strategize a plan to make something happen for President Trump's campaign. And it was a very long process, but you're able to make some huge things happen with it, and it was very good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about what you did.
So I think it was the first story. I don't know if we ever told this publicly, but there was one particular thing that happened that was, probably the most impactful one of the things I did, which was the Aiden Ross Trump
I don't know this.
interview. And so it started with I had a buddy call me up one day and just ask, hey, do you want me to introduce you to Aiden Ross? I think it could be a good connection. I said, sure. So he introduced me. We met over the phone, became friends, and I offered him, like, hey, why don't you come to Palm Beach sometime? We'll go to Mar-a-Lago, and I'll introduce you to some cool folks there, Barron and a few others. And he was like, I'd love to. So he comes down, he meets Barron, and we actually watched a boxing match.
And of course, he tells me this, and I'm like, who's Aiden Ross? And he said, Dad, he's got 20 million followers on Kick. I'm like, what's Kick?
You're old, man.
So yeah, I went to Barron, of course, who he was, and many other people. So we brought him down and introduced them face to face, and we watched the Fury Usyk fight that was going on at the time, and that was fun. We had no plans for a Trump interview. We looked at Aiden Ross as a cool social media guy, not the type of person you introduce to a president or let alone do an interview with. But Aiden had other plans. He was very interested, and he was begging us, saying, hey, how can we make this happen? And we're like, well, let's think about it. It was never anything that really got set in stone until we thought about it a little bit more, and we were like, this could be
For us dads, what does Aiden Ross do that had you watching him?
Just completely captivate the young generation.
Doing what?
Just, he was hanging out with all your favorite celebrities, all your favorite rappers, just anybody that's huge on social media. And he himself was just, taking the internet by storm. And so we thought about it, and we're like, this could be something really good. And similar to how they did with Jimmy Fallon. I don't know if you guys ever saw the interview with Jimmy Fallon and Trump. A lot of people hate Jimmy Fallon and think he's liberal and terrible, and I might somewhat agree, but I think at that time it kind of worked out when he interviewed Trump because it humanized Trump, which is something that no other person was doing at that time. They're all calling him Satan. Here comes Jimmy Fallon, has him on, and plays with his hair and says, whatever cracks jokes. It humanized him in a way where he needed to be humanized, so we could realize everyone calling him a Nazi is just not the truth. And so this is a similar thing with Aiden Ross. A whole young generation that's never even thought about Trump. They're not thinking about politics. They're thinking about their favorite rappers and celebrities and stuff, and that's all their minds are warped into. So here comes Aiden Ross right after. So here's how it really happened too, because we were going to do the stream earlier than it happened, but Trump got shot. We went to the rally right before the rally at Butler where he got shot, and we introduced Aiden to the president. They met face to face. And the president seemed actually very interested to do an interview. So we were setting it up. It was supposed to happen pretty soon, and then he got shot, so we had to delay it, obviously. But that just made it all the more iconic. Trump was able to walk out playing Many Men during the stream, and I think they were at like 2 million live viewers and then billions of views across social media. And it was one of the most viral things I've ever seen, and it was a complete success. And I think it probably got a large portion of the young vote.
That's cool. So John, what's Kick?
These guys moved the youth votes 17 points. And you take any swing state, that's the margin. I mean, that,
I believe for the first time in a long time, President Trump is now leading in the polls of young people. So I think he's like hanging on 56% right now. And usually it's young people that are the rebels and they're Democrats, but now it's to be a rebel, you're being a Republican. So and people are switching over, and with things like Aiden Ross jumping on board, Theo Vaughn, Jake Paul, all these celebrities, people want to get behind the president. Even Conor McGregor, who's went to the White House, people like that. It's sparking a flame. And I'm excited to see the next guy. So, who's after Trump, and then I'll help that guy too as much as I can.
Yeah. So, John, you got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I don't know how much you want to talk about, but tell us a little bit about all the businesses that you have happening, and if you want to share other things that are happening, feel free.
well, we've got a handful of things that we do. And again, pretty much the common thread with our family is that we want to do things that make money and impact the culture, impact the country. So my wife was doing a ton of Fox News when we were out in San Diego, and Roger Ailes was really pressing her to keep, be our border correspondent, and so she had to make these hour-round trips to be in this little hole-in-wall studio. And so he said, "Why?" She was complaining about it. He said, "Why don't you build a studio?" And so we teamed up. I had office space where I was, and the thing I was in at the time. So we built a studio, and we took his formula, and Gina, being a talent and wanting to be in front of the person in front of the camera, she was extra scrutinizing about having things like the lighting perfect and the sound just right, and so really perfected a model. And so we started at California, and then we started building those around the country. And our business partner, Jason, is a tech genius, and so he can build anything. And so that's been fun. And then the COVID really showed how bad our supply chain challenges are. And there's more talk about that, but we didn't talk about supply chain shortages that much 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so I had a guy who's got a cobalt mining operation he was working on building. And so I put him in contact with a friend of mine in DC and said, "Hey, she does work in the Congo, so she might know something about cobalt." And after that conversation, didn't last very long, because both of us had asked him the same question: what good is it to find cobalt if you're just going to send it to China to be refined? So she's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "We need a cobalt refinery here." And so 2.5 years later, we're the only company in the U.S. making nickel powder right now, and we're going to make cobalt manganese for the U.S. So that's pretty fun.
That's really cool.
And then there's other things. I do have a whiskey distillery. I haven't quite found the big, society-changing play there, but that's just fun. But it makes everything we do a little more fun.
We have an online store to sell whiskey. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hop around a little bit. And what's it like being a senator? What does the job entail?
I tell politicians, would-be politicians, the best job in politics is U.S. Senator, because you have all kinds of power and zero responsibility. You see these senators who are 90 years old, and you wonder what they do about these, their staff and everything, but they, you can show up or not, but you can veto the president. A senator can filibuster the bill the president wants, and it's the same on the state level. You can filibuster the governor. So we had a vaccine mandate coming through Missouri, and I said no. I stood up and filibustered it, and I filibustered everything the health department wanted. And so when they said, what's going to take to stop me? I said, I want a symposium on thimerosal, on the mercury vaccines. We need to get to the bottom of this. So those things, we were at a favorite waterside restaurant with our dog, and we're suddenly told this Sunday, you can't bring your dog. State law. That's stupid. I think I'm going to go fix that. And I did. So, from the important to what seems trivial, but, now you're sitting with the dog in your restaurant, that sidewalk cafe. You're like, yeah, I did that. you know, and it's very gratifying. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, but just a tremendous opportunity to be a vessel.
Yeah. And then what are some of the pro-business and pro-life things that you
Yeah, well, my mother's a teacher, and my dad was transferred to St. Louis, and we're the best schools. We started out in Chicago, and so we had the ability to settle. We're at that time the best public school in the area, and so you just put two and two together. You want good public schools, you need a strong tax base, and businesses need a good educational system. So I went to I set out to chair the business committee. I wanted to do business laws, the workers' comp law, the unemployment law, the health insurance law, litigation reform, all the things that were just if you could lower all those expenses, then business can thrive, education can thrive. So I was on the education committee. That was like my kind of line there, but there were deeper things that came up while I was there, like writing a sexual predator law. So we went after we did a deep dive. We created a task force and did the best sexual predator protections in the country. We go after them in no states even close, but also the pro-life legislation was pretty critical. So and when I say we, one thing that was very unique is that I had a very passionate wife who was with me every step of the way. We made the decision to go to the Capitol together, homeschool the kids there, and so I always had that help me right there, helping write these laws or yell at a lobbyist or yell at a lawmaker, hey, come on, what are you doing, and she was one of these wives that's like, I knew you when, I knew when you came in as a baby, and she's yelling at the speaker. You're full of yourself. It's that kind of thing. So it was a fun team.
still a fun team.
It's good. Fun team there.
Yeah. So Bo, you mentioned you want to pursue more in the political realm. Tell me a little bit about your 5-year plan. What's it look like?
So I think definitely I want to pursue a political future. Right now, the whole social media thing is going very well. Do a lot of interviews, a lot of travel, things like that. And I really do enjoy the aspect of, being where I am and being in a position to make such great friends, connections, and things like that, and the whole networking around. I enjoy that a lot, and I think it would take me all the way in the political future. I definitely want to go to college, study law, finance, and kind of build my name brand a little bit outside political, but just so I have it, and then from there, once I raise enough funds and establish myself as a human being and enough that I could definitely go into politics even if I feel like God calls me. I don't have like a specific decision I'm targeting right now, but once I get to that point, I think I'll definitely decide. I'm totally ready. Be a senator, congressman, even something more local first. See what takes.
You have some cool collaboration stuff happening right now. You want to talk about any of that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, right now I've just been on the road nonstop. I have great friends, like my buddy, who was in the audience, John Loudon, who was Hair of Light, people like that to provide travel and around the world.
Johnny Jets.
Yeah, I helped. There's a little side projects I helped set up. I connected good jeweler buddy of mine, tracks NYC with UFC legend Conor McGregor, and they could create a collab out there in Ireland. And we're going to see the McGregor clan as well. We were out there for my sister's wedding, so that'll be very, very awesome. So I'm just doing a little side projects right now, and it's been very fun.
But the really cool thing, he does these not asking for anything, and he just likes connecting people. Like his friend's bird becomes his bird, And some things he will have people reach out, hey, can you connect me with so-and-so? He doesn't really know the person, and that could be a fee or percentage or something. But most of the stuff he's doing is just connecting people and just watching what comes back.
I just like doing something and seeing, wow, God used me to do that, and it's an honor. So when I look and I'm able to make something happen, it's ability to use it across social media. I'm very proud and very confident that God used me to do that instead of somebody else. and that I was chosen for such a time as this.
I mean, Aiden Russ, by the time, I think it's kind of funny looking back. Aiden Russ, when I did the interview so much, that he's both like, yeah, he's going to do $1 million. Like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Because he's like, back in interview, nobody pays to interview somebody. It's the other way around usually. People are, Kamala Harris is paying Oprah, and people were paying to be with Trump, and so A. Ross fires $2 million to the Trump campaign, Voted asked for anything, voted just wanted to elect the leader of the free world.
It gets into purpose, what motivates you. So what is the process for you, what you're doing now and what you see in the future? And there's some opportunities that I know that are on plate right now. What's your motivator?
I have a few different silos, but it does go back to that, if you just come to me, hey, I didn't make money, who's helping with this thing or that thing, and it's not especially interesting if it's just a money thing. But I do have, I've got another thing I did when I did the health insurance law. I got a case of just how messed up everything was. I left business undone, and that bothered me. We knew that we could reform health insurance. We could create coverage for people with pre-existing conditions. And by the way, I will say one of the big lies, and there are a lot of lies out there, this idea that Obamacare protected people with pre-existing conditions was a half-truth. I'm trying to think of why, but it's a half-truth. We did that in 2007 in Missouri. So we were definitely people with pre-existing conditions before that, and we weren't the first state. Actually, Massachusetts, believe it or not, Obamacare covered pre-existing conditions. So that's a state function. But I realized one of the things that, like, we could make insurance more competitive. We could create a high-risk pool for people with pre-existing conditions. But the real cost was in the pharma and the medical providers and those, and now the pharmacy benefit managers. But we had a big bill to get through, and we couldn't do that too. It was too much to bite off. So now I'm working in healthcare space. We're actually going to ring the bell at NASDAQ tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty exciting. Yeah.
That's cool.
What's that? Thursday, excuse me. Yeah.
Not there yet.
Yeah, watch CNBC Thursday, see Dr. Gina. Yeah.
What about you? What's your motivator?
I mean, go back to, like I said earlier, 100% I'm over here with my parents. They're still out here doing all these great things. They could go retire right now and be very happy, but then again, they're still out there, kicking butt, taking names, and they're doing a great job. And my dad and my mom are both just geniuses. So I aspire to be, at least half of that one day, and able to, follow in their footsteps as much as I can. And I'm motivated by, just the ability to serve others. I really enjoy it. And so I think for the long term, I want to make sure that I'm able to, let God use me in the ways that He needs to, and as well from that, I want to make sure I keep my character, because that's one thing my parents taught me since I was a little kid, and they did very well themselves. Keeping your character, no matter how much money comes, how much fame, whatever comes in life, you can't keep your character. You go down a very dark path, and I've seen it happen to their friends. I've seen it happen to my friends and many other people, and so that's my biggest motivator. Number one is my parents, and then number two, keep my character, and just following in line with God's plan.
That's great. On that note, politicians, there's a stigma. I mean, it's not always positive, So what do you say to your son? He's like, I want to do politics. And then how do you overcome this stigma to the point that it's easy to be corrupted in that world? And then follow up with, how come we can't get along as Americans anymore, or the world, when it comes to your social media? I mean, if you have an opinion and I have a different opinion, why can't we just disagree? Politics, you see it so much now, and it seems to be getting a little worse, not better. So what's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. One of the challenges is like take term limits. That's like, that's like taking a sledgehammer to a little nail. I mean, that's not the solution. It's an easy fix, but it's not a real fix. The problem isn't necessarily in the long time people. I'll just give you an example. I had a guy say late hours, there was a long debate going on, and he had some liquor, and he just said flat out, I've got 8 years, first 4 years for people, the next 4 years are lining up my next gate. Straight up. And I don't know that we want people going in and saying, I got this window and I'm going to be lining up my next gate. Flip that over. I had my first floor debate was term limits. And I was debating this guy who'd been in the Senate 30 years. And I was the new guy and the youngest guy. I challenged him on term limits. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, son, you have to be here at least 10 years to know what you're doing. And to really know what you're doing. I said, you need to be here for 10 years to be tricky. Now, what's funny about that is I became tricky, but for good. Bo wouldn't be here. Gina was miscarrying, and the doctors were failing to diagnose why she was miscarrying. A midwife comes into my office and diagnoses Bo had one home health. And Missouri was the only place in the world where home births was a felony, because the doctors had gotten a law changed that practicing medicine without a license is a felony. Get that? Delivering babies is a practice of medicine. It's ours. And so now that I've got a midwife miracle child who shouldn't be here, I thought I'd go to my friends, the doctors, and say, hey, let's work this out. They didn't want to work it out. So I'm now second in seniority in the Senate and also the youngest, and I'm doing the health insurance bill. And I came up with really sneaky, tricky language and hid it in the health insurance bill, and we legalized midwifery. Had I been termed out, when you term out the lawmakers, you end up with lobbyists and staff that have all the knowledge instead of people accountable to voters. So one of the things, you've got a smart audience, you target smart people. I would love to see us solve for the problem of the people knowing which politicians are really in it from right and which ones are there to, their last 4 years was for me. How can we, I just got algorithms out there. There's got to be, it is hard. You can see voting records. We've got crude, you're good on guns, you're good on abortion, you're good, whatever. But I don't know that we don't have something you just measure. You have to get involved in your local community. I always felt like I was new, because I was pretty heavily involved from the local politics and filed this guy to do one this minute. See this guy compromised, file that away. You just kind of know that guy's a 80% or 70%. But I don't know that the people really have a tool to know that. That could be pretty powerful. Somebody could develop that.
Yeah, because everybody's smiling, kissing babies, so how do you know?
Yeah.
And Bo, being in social media, these conversations are very polarizing. Even tonight, there was some chatter about, some folks who weren't happy about this interview. And I just find it interesting that we can't just have a conversation to get along and agree to disagree. What does it look like from your perspective?
I agree. I think it's very important that we should be able to have conversation. We should be able to sit down and disagree, but also understand why the other person disagrees. And I think a lot of that goes back to our generation being so flawed. You think of the American dream, it gets to be, the perfect family with a few kids all raised in that home, all, with their Bibles, and think that's what you think of like American values and tradition. We really lost that in the family unit as a whole is so broken. Parents aren't very close to their kids anymore. Their kids face put on the screen. There's no fighting the dinners. There's no families going to church. And you don't have that stuff as much as you used to. So you take that and makes a bunch of greedy, hasted people. I think people are just so upset with their lives. The younger generation is over medicated, just constantly depressed, and it's all my beers. I think that's hard to have conversation. We can't disagree on it. what phone to buy, how are you gonna have a political dish instead of have. So I think education and family unit is a big part in that, and I think that would do massive things for our generation. Then again, just putting this in front of people's faces, like you saw, my motivation. The big motivators is obviously sex trafficking. I think it's a terrible thing that's playing in our country. People don't realize how bad it is. So my generation doesn't have a clue. And so for you to have to put this in front of their faces, sometimes it can be very hard. And I won't they do, they were certain. I said, your friends and reached out to me with this anti-sex trafficking thing. And they're like, yeah, sure, $200,000. And that's not, we need to put behind it. And so I think that's another thing too with politics. If you want to be able to find corruption, go into a position like that, you got to have your own money. You got to have your own connections. You got to have your own personality that can set the way it's going to be so that no one can change it. And usually that comes from having good parents, which I'm fortunate to say, but many others in this generation are not.
There's nothing to be said about authenticity too, being able to present who you are. Goes back to both the character and finding out which politicians are true to the word or not. But also having civil discourse. Where is the civility in discourse now? And do you see it changing? How can we change it? Yeah.
Oh, it's tragic, when you look at how far, kind of how polarizing we've really gone, and that you can't have the conversation. And I think a lot of that I blame on the public education guys. I mean, if you disagree with me, you are fundamentally a baddie to me. That just seems to be this play, but we see it, and everybody, I'm sure just about everybody here just seeing it on social media, and it's the left. I'll just say it. It's not people on the right that are canceling people on the left. I'm not going to talk to you because you're on the left. It's people doing the camps in there. Don't give me facts. Confuse me. And so I lived out in California 6 years, and saw it, heavily there. And we watched the transsexual stuff come up. The first was the bathrooms, and then locker rooms. And now in California, if your kid is confused, they always talk about my body, my choice between a doctor and a woman or what have you, but they decided that if a child is confused, the doctor cannot counsel to not be confused. Don't stay who you are. Only counseling that you done is, well, let's talk about how we're going to transition that. I mean, and these things are just so insane on the face, the transgender applicants, but they push it as normal there, and they plug out their studies and their fake studies and push it out there. And then if you challenge that, you're a hater. We got all these studies. You're like, oh no, you're just one of them. And that's, I feel like we have taken a major bold step in winning in this last election cycle, that free speech was making a big comeback. I credit Elon Musk a lot for that, but it's not just him. This whole, kind of new wave victory that, I think people kind of are waking up that, cancel culture was a bad thing. Look at all the comedians and actors that are protesting that I'm tired of being canceled. So I think it's making a comeback, and people are now questioning those people want to shut down the discussion. We should always be able to have a discussion, especially on college campuses. And so I think that funding's been ripped from the universities by a lot of old people who used to give a lot of money and said, no, I'm not giving anymore. I see what's going on. The pendulum swing. I think they swung far enough to the wrong direction that it's swinging back, and speech is making a comeback, and I'm excited about that.
This is my mid-interview cough that I usually do. For those of you who've been here before. I've been sick for 6 weeks. So forgive me. Hopefully this won't be a trend. But I'm dying over here for a second.
Go right ahead. Go on, sing a little song and dance your teeth.
I do agree with your point. I think part of part of the character of being authentic is not changing your values. I think a lot of people do that nowadays. I mean, most people are firm for their values for all wrong reasons, for all wrong values, like transition kids. But I think like in conservative space especially, I think one of the reasons that the president found her mom on TV and respected her so much because she was authentic and she was able to say what she believes when no one else did. When Trump was the joke-up candidate and nobody took him seriously, she went on TV saying, no, this guy's going to win. Like, this guy can, here's why. And he saw it, he respected it, and he, found her a few years later and was like, you're my hero, the person that didn't change. I know so many, I can name 100 sitting right here, conservative influencers who just, if you want to, you just flip-flop. I'm for Trump, I'm for Bernie Sanders, I'm for, Marco Rubio, whoever it was at the time, they were flipping. And it's a sad pattern to see, and then now I see these, what's even worse is they're trying to use these influencers that have millions of followers. They are not saying what they believe. They're saying that they know will get clicks and what will make them viral. And even if it's completely wrong, they're saying it, and it's playing the lines of even people that agree with us. Not a lot of young men are being taught, you go out and have as many girlfriends as you can, and this is okay, and you can, go and do that. You don't need to have one wife. You need to be like the great leaders with hundreds of wives and, people promoting, different religions and things like that. It's messing up our young generation for sure. Especially when you see, these wolves in sheep's clothing, saying use the daily wolves. They're just saying they know they clicks will make them viral. And I think being authentic is very important because you have to distinguish the two.
This question for both of you. Obviously, you've done some great things. Let's talk about some things that maybe were a mistake that you made that you learned from, and how did you learn from it? How explain in a way that maybe somebody else who's listening to it for you.
Stop having kids. I think I should have had more kids. My wife is amazing, and she wanted more kids. And I think, I kind of think, like we joke about it now that I'm like, we had the big SUV, with all 5 seats filled in the back, and she wanted more kids. I said, well, we could get one of those 50-passenger vans. But I'm just really blessed by that. I just want to jump in because I have my son and other son and sons. Is Sammy here? Little Sammy? Yeah, Sammy's back there. Our special needs boy, Sammy, and my son Jack, who was pivotal in the Bernie Marcus campaign in Ohio, and my daughter Lily. What's that? Bernie. Oh, geez, what did I say? Marcus. Bernie Marino. Geez, sorry, Marino. God rest your soul. You're a great builder of Home Depot. So, and my other daughter stepped up and worked in a little state rep race when they needed help and made it happen. I got great kids, do great stuff. I do sometimes wish I had more.
And for me, I think one of the biggest mistakes I've had to learn, and there's a lot of mistakes in support that to note. There's a lot of mistakes I've been able to avoid with having a good family, having good older siblings that can meet me in a way, saying, hey, look, I already made a mistake, make sure you don't make the same thing. But definitely one of the big mistakes that I made was not making friends carefully. I think picking friends carefully, the people you surround yourself with, doing this support you using. Because I think it goes back to authenticity. You gotta find me someone I can tell is truly authentic. I don't care who they are, I don't care how they are, I don't care what they believe. I'm like, we're gonna be friends now. I'm gonna keep a tight friend group. Because to find someone who's truly authentic nowadays is very rare. And I've had so many friends in the past who I'll move heaven and earth for them and do great things just for a nice person, and just get stabbed in the back and you shoot again. It's a thing that happens nowadays. People are not who they used to be. You shake a man's hand, that's not always firm. How it used to be. So you have to really take your friends carefully and the people you surround yourself with. And again, to respect the fix with them media.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was kind of a little bit of a low toast answer. You wanted something more self-critical, but one thing I wish that I had done more is like taking the kids hunting and fishing. My dad was the most special times with those one-on-ones. So yeah, it's scribble.
It's never too late.
Yes, that's right. That's right. What we're
Oh,
supposed
it
to.
could be too.
Well, we're lined up to go kill a hog with knives, so I got that coming up here. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
social media, make great friends. I have for a buddy now who's probably the biggest on social media for that. Two buddies. I have Black Tip H, who's massive fishing channel on YouTube and Instagram, and then I have Fishing Garrett, a lot of people, and he's just massive on social media and stuff like that. So.
Well, take your dad hunting fishing then.
Yeah.
I would
Take the streets.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's something with the kids are
Sprays it
out.
out. Let's wrap up with legacy. I've heard it said legacy is something that go futures. You're building it every day. So what does your legacy look like? What do you want to leave behind as you're building daily?
You know, we had a speaker at the men's group that said, legacy is not what you leave behind, it's what you store up in heaven. That was really powerful. So yeah, I think we've got, I'm really just so gratified, just grateful, every day for my kids. They're all here, they're awesome, and they're marrying great people. We've got 3 weddings this year, and they found great people. So I feel like we're leaving a national legacy right there. It's amazing kids, I don't aspire to have a building named after me, but yeah, I can look back and say, yeah, kids are safer from predators because that's kind of fun. That there's a good number of those that pro-life legislation I did, shut down all 3 abortion clinics in Missouri, as the result. And but God is so amazing that one of the abortion clinics shut down and reopened as a crisis pregnancy center.
Wow.
Yeah, months later, and can't outtreat God. So those are cool, those are fun, but really it's I feel like I've got an impact here, my kids.
I think for me, it's most important understanding God, His grace. I'll go to an event and I'll shake the hand of a wounded veteran with missing legs, and I'll say, "Thank you for your service. I can't imagine what you go through." And I'll just tell you were worth it. Hearing something like that, or something like that is, it's stated. And seeing what my parents went through, they did not have the lavish childhood that I have. They did not have the up and coming life I have. They didn't have the opportunity.
We're lavish.
We're lavish. You have to. They had to. They did really work to give me what I have, and I think part of my legacy is going to be making sure that I do the same for my kids. I want my kids to have more than even I have, and so on building the Loudon name to the best of our ability. And, we don't need a building with our name on it, but we do have castles.
Yeah, there is Loudon Castle in Scotland. We gotta go take that back. Yeah. There's a Dutchman in there. That's just wrong.
So yeah, part of it.
Yeah.
Part of legacy is understanding, the grace and blessings of God, what He's bestowed upon me, and taking that and giving back to those people, but then also leading something for the people that are to come is very important. It's a very important part of legacy. I want to know that, hey, I was able to accomplish this much. I was able to take care of the people around me, and people that take care of me, and make a difference for things like sex trafficking. And things like politics, and growing politics, there's just not much being done for it. Thankfully, we had people like President Trump who did a bunch of things for sex trafficking. This now is, saying all these, gang members back to their countries and protecting our kids. But I mean, it's a real issue, and things like that, abortion, all these societal problems. There's plague veneration. I'd love to get in politics and fight that on a real level, but also to have the voice and the power to do something about that. And a lot of people, just aren't motivated enough. And the problems they don't have myself to the position, or get so content with all that, and forget why I started out to get to that position.
That's great. Either one of you have an inspirational quote or saying that you think of from your orthodox from?
Well, Gene and I, one of our favorites is Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena."
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, and that's that is great for a lot of people. I think sort of our credo is, it is Second Corinthians. My people are called by my name longer, doesn't pray. Turn from their wicked ways. And I think, we're a nation that kills their babies, and we want God to bless us. So that's why we've worked on, that's why that's been part. Gina drove that. She was a fierce pro-lifer when we met. I was agnostic, not a Christian. So that's a big part. Just, I can't think of a better singular quote, but that scripture is kind of what, always resonates. Why we do what we do. Like, God can heal our land if we do our part.
I would definitely say that the men we're reading for as well. Because I think, we don't have a choice. We're in this generation where God's put us, and we got to take that and run with it and do the best that we can. That's the biggest Bible quote, the Bible verse that I quote a lot. She says, "Your laughs are the wicked, for he must have days coming." And so, if it's His will to use us to take it down, I'm more than happy to do so.
And another favorite, really, if good people don't lead, bad people will. Yeah. So that's another rallying cry. You've got to get out there. It's easy to say, we got a local election in a little town down here right now. Election's Tuesday, and my buddy Kevin's never worked so hard on the campaign, and he's taking ownership. And while everybody else, or he could be, not playing pickleball, he's knocking on doors, just for one more week. But you get out and get involved, and if you don't, somebody else is. What do they want? So,
John, Bo, thank you so much